This is my love letter to the mini yarn cozy, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video is worth... Hey everyone, my name is Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty, and this is the mini yarn cozy. These are a companion pattern to my yarn cozy light, and this includes the 50 gram and 20 gram yarn cozy. Now you can find this pattern on Ravelry and Etsy starting on Friday, May 29th, 2020. Now, if you're watching it today, make sure to use the coupon code MINI30 to get 30% off the mini yarn cozy through Friday, June 12th, which I believe is 2 weeks from the release date. Also, if you're watching on the day that this airs within the first hour, make sure you comment down below to enter to win a copy of the mini yarn cozy pattern. So I cannot wait to tell you all about the mini yarn cozy. So let's get started with the inspiration. So the inspiration for the mini yarn cozy actually came from my yarn cozy light, which is a pattern that has already been released. I will link the pattern for the yarn cozy light and the video for that love letter down below. I'll also put in a card so you can go check that out if you haven't seen it yet, but I will just show it to you real quick. This is the yarn cozy light, the original one. There is a ribbed version, a cable version, and a self-striping version, and in true fashion, I still haven't woven in my ends on it. So anyway, this one is actually in use for a current whip that I am using, or I am making. Now I wanted to pull this one out just to show you a size comparison between the 100 gram version and then this pattern, which is the mini yarn cozy. So this is the 50 gram version. And then I also have the 20 gram version. So what that means is how much yarn it actually holds. So this holds 100 grams of fingering weight. That's the yarn cozy light. This one holds 50 grams of fingering weight, so it's perfect for, knitting socks or anything where you've split your yarn. And this one holds 20 grams of fingering weight, so any kind of scrappy projects. So I'm just going to pull these two out and we're going to talk more about that. So when I had the yarn cozy light tested, my testers kind of gave the suggestion, like, I think that it would be really cool if there was a 50 gram version of the yarn cozy light. And so that's really what sparked this idea to create more versions of these yarn cozies, because originally I didn't think about making anything other than a 100 gram size. So since my test knitters thought it would be pretty cool, I thought, well, let me make sure that more people would be interested in this, because I've always just hand wound my sock yarn or even my scrap yarn, and I've never even thought about caking it. So I put a poll on Instagram and asked you guys, do you cake your 50 gram or 20 gram balls of yarn? And you guys said that yes, you do. So I'm super excited to be offering these. These two are coming together in a pattern, but all three of them are also going to come in a bundle, and I will talk about that more when I get to details at the end. So that's kind of where the inspiration came for this pattern. So now let's kind of get into the journey of designing it. So the journey for the mini yarn cozy was pretty easy, actually. I already had my original pattern written, so I kind of went in and made a few tweaks, tested a few versions, had to make some changes, but other than that, it was pretty smooth sailing, which is really, really nice. The only real snag we hit was in testing, and it was 100% my fault, and I want to share this with you because I think it's always good to share mistakes so that people, just so you know, we're all capable and not immune to mistakes. So I sent out the pattern and somehow I completely either deleted a line or just forgot to add a line in this cute little 20 gram version. And I didn't even realize it until my testers started sending me photos where this was looking like a little tight. And then I knit through another version following my pattern and came up with something super, super tiny. If you've watched previous episodes of my podcast, you might have seen it, or I think I had it in my day in the life. It was pretty funny when I realized it. Luckily, it was only a few days into the test and I was able to let my test knitters know, and many of them generously offered to knit the updated version, which was the correct one. So that's the only major snag, and it was entirely my fault. I forgot basically an entire round of increases, which of course changed the rest of the pattern completely. Anyway, it's all smooth and fixed now, ensuring that you will have a great pattern on your hands if you choose to get this pattern, and that's what test knitters are for. Okay, so let me tell you a few of the things that I just love about this pattern. So I'm actually making a pair of socks right now, and the yarn came in two like 50-gram hanks already. So I was able to test out using my 50-gram yarn cozies, mini yarn cozies. So you can see I've got the same yarn here, but I have a plain and simple and a faux cables version, and they fit so nicely here into my one skein float tote, because basically they are one skein, they're each 50 grams. So I just love that those fit into there. But what's so great about this pattern is that it is so quick. It's even faster than the Yarn COZY LITE because it's smaller, and it's great for using up scrap yarn. It uses less than 15 grams of yarn, which is not a lot of yarn, but sometimes you have that left over when you finish a project or a pair of socks. So it's really nice that you can just use that up and make something very useful, especially if you love the yarn and you want to keep on using it. Also, it's really great for gifts for your knitting and crocheting friends, because sometimes it's really nice to have somebody knit for you, but you don't always know what to make, and these little cozies are the perfect thing. I think they're super useful. I am actually working right now on creating a matching set. I was hoping to have it finished before I recorded this video, but that was too lofty of a goal. But I am making so many of these 20-gram versions. I actually have I've done 4 so far, and I have many more. Hold on, let me grab them. So I'm trying to make my way through the rest of these minis so that I have a complete rainbow set of mini yarn cozies in the 20-gram size. So probably not something I'm even gonna get done before the pattern releases, but it was a nice goal, and one day I will have all these adorable little mini yarn cozies, and maybe I can make wind up a bunch of little cakes and have them ready for scrappy knitting and crochet. The other thing that's just really great about the yarn cozy, if you have never knit or crocheted out of a yarn cozy before, think back to a time where you're using a cake and you're pulling out of the center of the cake and your yarn just collapses on itself. Especially with those small ones, you go through them so fast. What the cozy does is it kind of holds on to your cake, it compresses it as you knit down on it, and because it's made of yarn, there's a little bit of traction, so even as you're pulling out those last little bits, it's going to hold onto your yarn. I actually have a picture here from somebody on Instagram. They were using one of their yarn cozies and they were using the yarn down to the very end, and you can see that it just stays in there, which is so convenient. So I never ever, well, that's not true. I can't say never ever, but I rarely knit without yarn cozies. Before I was using some store-bought ones, but now that I have these, I think I'm going to convert over to using these exclusively, especially when I can make colors that are neutral or go with my project. So that's the fun thing, is that you can totally customize them for yourself. All right, let's talk details. I am going to be referring to my computer here to make sure that I don't miss anything. I'm also going to show you every single version that I have made so far, and I'm going to have the projects probably linked in the description box so that you can go look at those yarns if you are interested. So first of all, yarn required. This is a fingering weight pattern or sock weight pattern, and you're not going to need a full skein of yarn. You could use a full skein of yarn, but then you could make, like, I don't know, 6 to 8 cozies out of it. So basically you only need a partial skein of yarn, and you need about 12 grams for the, well, let me grab it. Where did it go? For the 50-gram size, you need about 12 grams. That was the highest that any of us used, but I would say keep around 15 grams just to be safe. And then for the smallest version, the 20 gram, you only need about 8 grams. But again, I'm going to overestimate that for you in the pattern, and it's going to be 10 grams just to be safe. So 15 and 10, and you should have plenty of yarn. Now, as far as needles go, the gauge on this is roughly like a sock knitting gauge, so 8 stitches per inch. So whatever needle you use for socks will be perfect. If you're not a sock knitter, then that's going to be a US 1 2.25 millimeter, or maybe even a US 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter. And even some of my test knitters went in between and did a 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter. But basically, whatever you use for socks, if you've already got that needle, that's gonna be perfect. Just go for it with that. These cozies are very flexible, plus every skein of yarn doesn't wind up to be exactly as big as others, so it should work for some of your yarns. Now, there are a few special stitches, well, really just one special stitch. These cozies are mostly ribbing, so they're super, super simple, but I do have this fun cabled version. Now, these cables are not real cables, meaning that you don't have to use a cable needle, you don't have to slip stitches off the needle. This is a twist stitch, and I have a tutorial for this. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Other than that, everything is really, really simple. These are quite easy to make. There's some increasing, there's knitting in the round. For the 50 gram and the 20 gram version, you will need to know how to knit either on double points or magic loops, something to get that small circumference in the round. Now, as far as video tutorials, I have several video tutorials. Let me make sure that I get them all. So the first one is the super stretchy I-cord bind off, which is another stitch that is part of this pattern. It just gives it a wonderful finished look. The next one is for knitting stripes in the round, which I want to talk about these here in a second because these are just so, so adorable. But so that you don't get that, I'll just show you here. You can see the color change on the inside, of course. So that you don't have that on the outside, on the purl bumps when you're doing the ribbing, there's a special technique for that, and it is also on my YouTube channel right now. The third one is how to sew that I-cord bind off together. That's on my Instagram. And then also the twist stitch. That's on my Instagram, IGTV as well. I'll have all of those tutorials linked down here in the description box. And I will also have them linked on the Ravelry pattern page for this pattern. So let's talk through each of these real quick. So again, this pattern includes 2 sizes, the 50 gram and the 20 gram. So let me show you the 50 gram first. There is the plain and simple, the faux cables, and then there is a self-striping version. Now these two, I knit them out of, I think it's Miss Babs, but this is like my never-ending yarn because I knit a boxy sweater out of this yarn. I think I've knit some other things, and it's just a never-ending skein. So it was great to use up scraps. I'm down to 3 grams of that yarn now, so it is almost all used up. And then this is Malia Made It, one of my favorite self-striping dyers. This colorway is Luna Lovegood, and I'll be sure to have the projects linked below. Let me show you that real quick on a skein just so you can see what it looks like. When you take these out a lot, they do start to get messed up, so don't do that too often. But you can just see you tuck your skein in here, your cake of yarn, and then you kind of have to, you know, rearrange it, get it dressed properly, pat the bottom down a little bit, and it works out just perfectly. So there's the self-striping version. You can see no purl bumps if you follow those directions, or no like color changes in the purl bumps if you follow those directions on the tutorial. So that's the 3 versions for the 50 gram, the 3 stitch patterns for the 50 gram version. And now we have the 20 gram version. Aren't they so cute? This is another Malia Made It, and you won't know until you knit your self-striping version, but I think that I probably would have started at a different point in these stripes. So looking at this one, I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stripes. So I go through all of my stripes in this colorway. But this colorway that I used is one of my favorites from Malia. It is called Disney Princess Parade, and it has a lot more colors in it. So you can see that I didn't make it all the way through all of the colors, and I think this really needs the blue and the teal and the purple to balance it out. So I think I'm gonna make another one of these, and you'll see I've got part of the green, so I'll probably start on the blues, and it'll be a totally different cozy. So that's super fun with the 20 gram version, is you can use self-striping and knit up several different versions from the same yarn, and I think that is so fun. So there's the same 3 stitch patterns, plain and simple, those faux cables, and then the self-striping version. And I've got a rather small 20 gram ball in there. You can see it's kind of hidden way down in there. And then I did have another one, but I feel like I dropped it somewhere. Hold please. Here we go. Here's the plain and simple version. You can see that even 20 gram skeins can vary in sizes, but these are nice and flexible and they stretch and they will work for most of your yarns. So one more quick detail, if you like all 3 versions, these are gonna be available in a bundle, which will be of course at a discounted price. So if you want all 3 of these, make sure that you grab the bundle. It will be an even better deal than getting this pattern for 30% off and buying this one full price. So grab the bundle because that will be your best option. Also, if you already own the Yarn Cozy Lite, look for an email from me. I can't even speak today. I think I've said cozy too many times. Look for a Ravelry message and an email from me on Friday when the pattern releases, because you will have your very own coupon code to get this for 50% off. So basically, you're going to get the bundle price without buying the bundle because you already have this pattern. And so I want to give you something that gets you the same good deal as the bundle. So don't use the 30% off coupon code. Don't buy it full price. If you already own Yarn Cozy Lite, wait for that message from me because it might come a little later in the day, but then you will get 50% off the mini Yarn Cozy. Message me if that doesn't make sense because it felt a little bit messy. I am signing off my love letter to the mini Yarn Cozy. Love in stitches, Knitty Natty.